Hi, it's Laura with Following the Paper Trail, and it's day 8 of the 12 days of Christmas. So we're going to be finishing this all up this week. So what I want to show you today is a little matchbook booklet. Now, I actually made this when I was at a class with Seth Apter here in Washington, but he did not show how to make this little book. I kind of came up with this on my own while I was just working on mine. So I am not divulging something that was taught to me by someone else. But I just want to be, if you've seen me show that booklet, I just wanted to be open and honest that while I created this while I was at a 5-day course with him, he didn't actually show or teach anything about how to make this booklet. I came up with this all on my own. But this is just a little matchbook style booklet that has pages in it that you can use paper, you can use fabric, you can use a combination. You can make it in whatever style that you want to. It doesn't have to be in this kind of much more free type style. You can kind of do whatever you want inside of it. But so you're making a little packet of papers that sandwich together, and this little brown piece wraps around to the back. And this is where the matchbook part of it comes in that this is then stitched into a grouping. So these are all stitched together. That's what these little pink things are. So you can see on the back, it's these 2 little stitches that are holding these pages together. And then this piece is stitched onto this piece of shoestring. This is actually shoestrings from an old Victorian shoe that I made into a fairy house. So this is a little bit of vintage, because if you do vintage stuff in your art and or junk journaling, you find yourself becoming pretty much a pack rat. So and then this comes around to the outside and ties on, and this piece here that becomes my cover is kind of like the jackets that I showed you. See, it is in that U shape with the pages. You could actually do this in a booklet style this way. It doesn't have to be a matchbook, but I designed this as a matchbook. Super easy to make, a cute little booklet, doesn't take a bunch of time, and I'm actually going to use something along this line in a project that we have coming up this week. But what I've done here is I've gathered together some bits and pieces of papers, etc., little fabrics, and I just want them to line up roughly up at the top. Let's do this one first. And both sides of the papers will show, so don't ignore the other side, the side B kind of thing. So I'm just lining these guys all up together. And now, I'm not going to sew this yet, because what I would be doing with these pages, now with this one, I did some work on the pages before I assembled it, and then I did a lot of the work after the little booklet was assembled, so that the pages kind of tied in together to each other. You can do it however you like to put papers together for a little signature. So line everybody all up. Okay, so I have my little sandwich guy ready to go. Everything's lined up at the top. And then I take, like I did this dark brown piece, I have a little piece of hand-dyed fabric here, and I'm going to wrap it around to the top. So it's down, I probably want a little bit less up at the top. So it's like 1/2 inch. And then it can hang down all the way down on the back, part of the way down on the back, or just that little bit at the top. And at this point then I do 2, maybe 3 stitches, depending on how many papers that are in there. Make sure everybody's all still down at that end. And just poke some holes and run a stitch in either at each end or each end and the middle, like I did on this one. I left the strings hanging on those so that, because I just like the strings hanging. And this is just some embroidery flosses and some pink, and I just, 2 to 3 strands is probably all you need. You could also do waxed linen. You could do colorful thin yarn, that sort of thing. So I would stitch those together. I have some paper clips here, so I'm just going to clip it for the time being so the paper pages all stay together until I'm ready to actually assemble them. But again, I want to work on the pages before I put them all in one thing. Otherwise, I would stitch them for you. Whoops. Go over the top there. So that gives you a better idea of how it's going to flip open and that sort of thing. Now, I have a piece. I'm going to see if I can untie this, or at least slide it down. Yeah, I'll just slide it down out of the way. So what I've done here is I have a piece that this all fits down inside of, and it's roughly long enough. If things hang out, that's totally okay. If you don't like it being that loosey-goosey, you can go ahead and cut things or tear things to where it's the width and height. It does just depends on your personal preference, whether you want kind of the more rustic look or whether you want them a little bit more refined. Totally your choice as to which you want to do. But I've made, just like I did with the journal jackets, same sort of thing. I have a 1/4 inch channel right here. If you had a thicker little packet, you could do 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, something like that. But I'm just doing this little 1/4 inch panel and channel, and then it wraps around. So that's there. And what I had done with this is, this was all one piece and this is a separate piece. So I just attached it together at the top. Then I'm going to take something, whether it's like I did on there, a vintage shoelace. This is a piece off of the shirts that I used on my button down Stack the Deck that I showed you a few days ago. And so this is just a piece that's got stitching down each side, and it was long and skinny, and I could tie it into a bow. So that's what I've done here. Put it right up there at the top of the channel. You can use ribbon, you can use maybe some braided cords, pretty much anything you can think of. So then I'm going to take this little packet and through this piece that I have over the top, and I would say you're going to have much more success if this is some sort of a fabric, because we're going to be stitching this to this guy, which you can see on here that I did is I stitched this part that connects the connector piece for all my pages, which I stitched them in advance. And then I just did some stitching that wraps, see if I can get that to where you can see it. So it just wraps around this shoestring, but you could also, like I said, here I'm just using some fabric that's stitched together. You can use ribbon, whatever you're choosing to use. You just want to stitch and wrap it around there, and probably 4 to 6 times is what I would say stitch that on. And then, as I show here, this one's tied on. So that's holding this whole bit inside the little cover. It'll do the same thing here when I stitch this to this piece here. And it gives similar two little books. And they're fun, quick, and easy. It doesn't have to be, the giant book that fits into a vintage book cover. You can make your own little books. And as I said, I'm going to be making more of these because these will fit then into a project that I have coming up. And I think it'll be on day 11. So unless I change the order around. But anyway, these little matchbook booklets are fun and easy and a quick way to use up some of your scraps, some of your fabrics. If you have not used fabrics in a booklet before, it's a great way to start using some of those, and just quick and easy versus multiple signatures that you have to fill in. So, little matchbook booklet. Enjoy. Thanks a bunch.